Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas and New Year. And today we are going to be getting into my top 10 books of 2021. So this year has been quite a good year for me reading wise. As I am filming this, I have reached the 98 out of 100 books mark, and I'm pretty sure I can hit that mark with a couple of days to go. So without further ado, I'm just going to get stuck into these books because I cannot wait to talk about them. So let's start at number 10. It's Carrie's debut novel, and in this one we follow a young girl called Anna who is essentially a teenage girl in modern day London who basically is this girl who is taught by her aunt that magic is evil and it killed her parents, blah blah blah. But when she meets two other teenagers called Eddie and Alice, she finds out that maybe it's not just, maybe the world is not what it seems. So I quite enjoyed this book. I think I gave it about 3.5 to 4 stars. It wasn't quite 5-star material, but for a debut novel, I really quite enjoyed this. There probably would be a couple of elements I'd change, but for being a YA novel, I quite enjoyed it. I like the idea of using threads to bind magic. I thought that part of the world was really interesting. I cannot wait to see what Carrie does next with the sequel. I don't know when that's coming out. This only came out at, I think it was maybe June this year, but for a debut novel I really quite enjoyed this. So I highly recommend this if you like the sort of modern day London with a bit of a sewing twist as well. Alright, so book number 9 is one that I was very excited to read when they announced it, and that was Beneath the Keep by Erica Johansen. So Erica Johansen is the author of the Queen of the Tealing series, which is one of my all-time favourite young adult, what I class it, it'd probably be more towards new adult than YA. So this one is a prequel in which we follow one of the main characters from the original trilogy called Lazarus. I won't go into too much detail about who that is because I do highly recommend you read Erica's other books. So yes, in this one we get to see a lot more of Lazarus, who I said is the main character in the original trilogy, and we basically find out more about the world prior to the events of the original trilogy. So I quite liked being back in this world again. I love the character of Lazarus. He's just is someone I call a morally grey character. Like, he has his own opinions of the world and he doesn't essentially have the best upbringing, but we kind of, in this book we see a lot more of his humane side, which I kind of wish was expanded upon in the original trilogy, but I really love this. I loved seeing some of the other characters from the main trilogy appear in this, and from reading the back of this, I have a feeling that Erica is going to be writing more books based in this world, and I cannot wait because, like I said, I love the original trilogy so much. I think I read it a couple of years ago and fell in love with it. I think I've read it about 3 times now, but yes, I definitely love this prequel to the Tealing series. So definitely recommend you pick this up if you are a fan of the original trilogy. Okay, so my number 8 pick is one that I just recently read this in the past month. I binge read this in a day and I absolutely loved it, and that is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Manisalko. Now, Carrie is the author of the Stalking Jack the Ripper trilogy, which I've only read the first book, but I do plan to pick that series back up again next year. I do have a video coming out in regards to some other series as well, so just watch this space for that. But yes, in this one we follow a young girl called Amelia who is living in Victorian London with her sister, and one day her sister is murdered and she essentially makes a deal with one of the princes of hell called the Wrath, and basically she goes on this quest to find out her sister's killer. So I really enjoyed this. I basically binge read this in a day. I think I started at 3 o'clock one afternoon and finished it at 1 o'clock that night. So if that's an indication of how much I love this, that's it. So I really liked Amelia as a character. I loved her drive to find out the truth and the love she has for her family as well. I'm quite a family orientated person, so I can relate to that in a lot of ways, and doing I can understand her struggle of doing whatever it takes to find the person who killed her sister. So I loved everything about this book. I love the dynamic between her and Wrath, and I cannot wait to read the sequel, which I do have on my shelves. So yes, definitely keep an eye on Carrie's work, because I really, really enjoyed this, and I cannot wait to dive in to the rest of her Jack the Ripper series sometime next year. Okay, so number 7 is one that I was quite surprised I enjoyed, because the track record I have with the author of the other series that this book is based on has been a rocky one. So I cannot go without mentioning A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is the prequel series to the Blood and Ash series. So from in Blood and Ash we follow Poppy, who is the maiden, so she can't be touched, looked at, and basically until she does this ascension. Now she doesn't know what that's about. But in this one, we follow Seraphina, who basically is kind of the same thing. But what I loved more about this book than from Blood and Ash is that I found Seraphina as a character more relatable. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Poppy as well. But for me, Sarah she seemed less whingy, if that makes sense. To me, Poppy just feels like, don't get me wrong, she does have a lot of struggles that she deals with, and that she is quite resilient, but I felt myself sympathising a little bit more with Seraphina, only because she sort of doesn't, for me, she doesn't have this kind of woe is me thing, whereas Poppy kind of has that a little bit more. But yes, I really devoured this book. I loved the relationship between Sarah and, what was his name, Ash? Yeah, I think it was Ash. But yeah, I really, really loved the relationship between Sarah and Ash, and I cannot wait for the sequel to this. I don't know whether that comes out next year. It may not, because we do have book 4 in the Blood and Ash series coming out in April. So yes, I'm very, very excited to see what Jennifer does with this trilogy, but definitely enjoyed this a lot more than I have the Blood and Ash series. Alrighty, so number 6 on this list is Defy the Night by Bridget Camera. So this is her brand new young adult series, and in this one we follow a young girl called Tessa, who is in this kingdom that relies on the power of this flower to essentially heal the land from this sickness that only this plant can cure. So we have the relationship between her and the mysterious Weston, who we do learn a lot more about. I won't go into spoilers there, because I do recommend you read this. And we also have the brothers, is it Carrick and Merrick? No, Harrison and Carrick, sorry. I don't know where I got Merrick from. But yes, so we have Tessa and Weston, and then we have the 2 brothers. So I really liked seeing the dynamic between Tessa and Weston, and then the 2 brothers as well. So I won't go into too much more detail about that, because it will be spoiler territory. But I, pretty much like with Kingdom of the Wicked, I devoured this in basically one day. I cannot wait to see what she does with the sequel. Probably the only criticism I would have of this is that it could have probably been a standalone. I wouldn't have minded if it was a standalone, but quite interested to see where she brings the sequel with this as well. But yes, another great 5-star review from Bridget. Right, so we are getting into number 5, and this one, if you follow me on Instagram, probably would not be a surprise, but this is probably been one of my favourite reads this year. Not quite close to the top, but I can't basically not crack the top 5 without mentioning The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. Now, I did get a advanced reader copy of this back at the end of last year, and I devoured this book, and I reread it again prior to the release of the Gilded Cage, which was the sequel, which also came out this year as well. So in this one we follow a young girl called Kiva, who has been basically imprisoned in this death camp for the past 10 years, and one day the rebel queen is captured and essentially sentenced to the trial by ordeal. So this is a series of elemental trials, and basically Kiva decides to take her place in exchange for both their freedoms. So I love Lynette Noni as an author. I love her work. I've read every single one of her books. This was no exception to the sheer quality of her writing. I love the way she makes all her characters feel real. You feel their inner struggles. You just basically have all the feelings with them. And the plot twist to this at the end was just, oh my god, it was pure genius. I did not see it coming. There was a little bit of a hint that I thought, oh, okay, maybe this may be it. Still didn't get it. So this was another great 5-star read from Lynette 90, and I highly, highly recommend her. Especially now, if you're overseas, you will be hearing a lot more from her, as this has been released overseas as well. Whereas her other books, like the Madoran Chronicles, I'm getting a brain fart today, has only been released in Australia. So, but I do know the first 2 books in that Madoran Chronicles are, I think you can get them in hardback overseas as well. But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for her work, because I absolutely love her work. Coming in at number 4 is a book I bought last year and didn't quite get to read last year, but I'm so happy I picked it up, and that was Hood by Jenny Eldermonk. So this is Jenny's debut novel, and in this we follow a young girl called Isabel, who one day is arrested, essentially trying to help these poor people, and basically finds out when her mum releases it that she is in fact the daughter of Robin Hood. So this was another book I've basically read in a day. Loved the character of Isabel. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of Robin Hood in there, but basically I can give that a pass, because this is essentially Isabel's story, not his. But yes, I really loved Isabel as a character. You know she was way out of her depth, and that wasn't really, she wasn't one of these characters that basically got talented overnight, even though she is the daughter of Robin Hood. That is the thing that I know as a reader I get really pissed off about, is that basically these characters are given everything to them on a silver platter and everything's great. But whereas Isabel has to basically, she's thrown in the deep end pretty much. And yeah, I really love this. I kind of wish there was a sequel to this. I really would like to see more from Isabel, but hopefully, Jenny, if you ever see this, you do, because I absolutely freaking love this. It was just probably one of my first, actually, no, was it my first 5-star read of the year? No, that was Blood and Honey, but yeah, this was definitely one of my favourite debut novels of 2020. Alrighty, so number 3 was an ebook, and this only just came out on Boxing Day, and I'm so glad I waited to film this video now, because that was a very Madoran Clodurus? Oh, I can't say things tonight. Part 2. So if you've read the Madoran Chronicles, you know that the very Madoran Caldurus was a little e-novella that Lynette released a couple of years ago to basically give us a closure as to where the characters were at the end of the last book. And in the end of that one, there was a oh my god moment that Lynette pretty much said that she wasn't going to write about it anymore. She basically left us in the dark, but she very happily announced before Christmas that she was releasing part 2. So, oh my god, I don't think I've clicked on anything more faster in my life than when I saw that this was coming up. This just basically tied off the main arc of that book series so well. I hope she writes more based on other characters. I won't spoil the way this ended, but it did, from my perspective, leave a bit of wiggle room for some other characters to essentially have their own story. Can't read those pages. Okay, so Very Madoran Clodurus Part 2. Absolutely loved it. Gave it 5 stars. Great. Alrighty, so number 2 is probably, if you see my reading vlog in this, you'll know my most deep thoughts on it, but I cannot go without mentioning The Gilded Cage by Lynette 90. Now, this is the sequel to The Prison Healer, and oh my god, like I said, I have a full reading vlog for my thoughts on this, so I will link it down below for you guys to check out if you want my full thoughts on this. But oh my god, I bloody read this with Caitlin and Em, and oh, holy shit. This is probably better than The Prison Healer. I absolutely freaking love this. 5-star material. I so glad I bloody read this, because I probably would have binge read it in the day as well, but absolutely 5-star material. Freaking loved it. Yes, I can't go into too much detail without spoilers, but if you have read this and you do want my full thoughts, I will leave a link to the spoiler vlog down in the description box for you guys. But yes, absolutely love this. 5 stars. Just freaking perfection. Loved it. Okay, and number 1, I'm sure you guys probably know what this is if you follow me on Instagram, but if you do not, this was probably my most anticipated read of 2021, and it did not disappoint me. And if you do know what I'm talking about, then you will know I am of course talking about The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon. So this is book 4 in the Bone Season series, and oh my fucking god, this was just perfect. We have waited 3.5 years for this book, and it was so worth the wait. So if you guys do not know what the Bone Season is, in the Bone Season we follow Paige, who is a clairvoyant, and basically in dystopian London where she lives, clairvoyancy is illegal, and if you were caught you can be pretty much sentenced to death. So one day she is caught using the powers on the train to see her dad, and basically is taken away to essentially what she believes is to die. But when she gets there, the world opens up in many ways possible. So all I can say is, Samantha Shannon, you fucking genius. How do you create this world? I do not know. But this installment was everything I could have ever asked for in a book. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me just, oh my god. And the ending, why does she like doing this to us? She's a Lynette Noni. She likes to do this. She likes to torture us with with everything that goes on. But yes, this book absolutely killed it for me. No read this year has come close to topping this. The Gilded Cage came very close, and the Maduran Calduras, but I'm sorry, because we waited so long for this book, I could not knock it off my top spot of 2021. It was everything I ever wanted. I just cannot believe we have to wait so long for book 5. But as I'm filming this, I know Sam is writing it at the moment, but she does have a priority book coming out sometime next year, I know, before this one does. But I know she has had some health issues as well, so I wish her all a speedy recovery, because we need book 5. I need it like tomorrow. This is the sequel I need tomorrow. The sequel to this is what I need tomorrow. I need it. Just, oh my god. This was perfect. I can't say anymore. Alright, so that was my top 10 for 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what was your favourite read of 2021, and if any of these books were on your list as well. But that is it from me for another video. If you guys liked it, please do give it a thumbs up as always. If you haven't subscribed, please do so already. And I shall see you guys in the next one. Bye!